My criticism of identity politics needs to be understood as a criticism of certain kind of identity politics. Over the past 50, 60 years, there have been tremendous social movements in the United States to guarantee the rights of minorities, African Americans, gay Americans, and also a majority, which is American women and their rights. And that you might consider to be one kind of identity politics. And that struggle was over individual rights, and it was about people demanding to be treated as equal citizens because citizenship mattered. What began happening in the 1980s is that the American left began focusing instead not on group identity and political rights, but rather on individual identity and the desire for recognition and acceptance. And so rather than focusing on concrete political issues, became focused on changing hearts and minds and changing American culture. Now, that shift reflected some deeper changes in the United States. We became a more individualistic country, and this notion of personal identity became important to a generation that came up in the 80s and 90s that were basically very self-absorbed. I call American identity politics Reaganism for the left, because it's focused on the sensitivities of the individual identity as some secret self within. And this focus on the self has distracted the American left from developing a larger vision of the kind of society we want to be and what our basic principles are. And so to people who are not on the left, who are just in the middle of the country, ordinary workers, what they see in identity politics is a bunch of spoiled, bourgeois, young people or older people who are just absorbed with themselves, have contempt for religion, lecture them morally about their attitudes on all these identity questions, and also control much of American culture. And so a culture war grew up around this new kind of identity politics. And what it's meant is that the radical right has been able to exploit this in order to capture votes and political power from people that they do not serve. The important thing to do is to fight for equality in terms of equal citizenship. The new identity politics that focuses on the self encourages especially young people to think that I have an identity, which is very different from your identity. You can't understand me because you don't share my identity, and therefore we cannot work together. But the earlier identity struggles for African Americans, women, and gays was about becoming equal citizens with equal rights. We can still do that. We still need to do that. But it's not questions of personal identity. It is about getting citizens as citizens recognized and respected. So it means articulating this larger vision, stressing citizenship, and within that context, talk about why we are fighting for these groups and for the protection of their rights.